So in today's lesson, we'll explore a few more techniques, those of visualization, of prayer, and of chanting. Yogananda said that the true state of meditation is a state of complete absorption into an aspect of God. So to help us uplift our energy and in order to attune to our higher consciousness, this week I'll invite you to try out and experiment with these techniques with the mindset of a scientist as tools that open the heart and magnetize the heart, increasing the upward flow of energy towards the heart and then up towards the brain. And I'd like for you to see for yourself if these age-old practices actually do help you to feel more expansive and to deepen your meditation. But before we do, I'd like to briefly touch upon the concept of God. And I think it's important that we do because we live in a wonderfully rich world of different people and civilizations, of different traditions and cultures. And so with the passing of time and across distant lands, and as levels of consciousness began to change, doctrines and theological ideas were adopted, and they branched out into all these different expressions. And so the concept of God is one that is often disputed and is a sensitive subject, not only between different religious groups, but also within the religious groups themselves. And yet, despite all of these different perspectives, it's hard to deny that we all came from the same source and that ultimately we all return to that same source. So regardless of how we define source, humanity does share this common legacy, this legacy of where we came from and where we're headed. And we all, at a certain point in our lifetimes, some of us maybe more than others perhaps, we began to ask ourselves these perennial questions. Who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? Where am I headed? And how can I find happiness? And if you're watching this video, chances are that you too are asking yourself these age-old questions. In his teachings of self-realization, Paramhansa Yogananda addresses these questions, not from a religious viewpoint, but from a spiritual point of view. And as we continue to make paradigm shifting discoveries and breakthroughs in the field of quantum science, we are now beginning to understand his teachings from a scientific point of view as well. But most importantly, Yogananda addresses these questions from the point of view of a human being, from the point of view of a human being on a quest for truth, regardless of their religion and faith. And so with this preamble, today I'd like to attempt to address the concept of God as Yogananda explained it. And I'll start with an excerpt from Yogananda's Whispers from Eternity. Let me be Christian, Jew, Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, or Sufi. I care not what my religion, race, creed, or color, if only I can win my way to thee. But let me be none of these if that identity enmeshes me in an enclosing net of religious or social formalities. Let me travel the high road of realization which leads to thee. If I am traveling on some bypath of religion, lead me onto the one common highway of realization which leads straight to thee. To people of all faiths, Yogananda encouraged them to go deep into their religion. He believed in the unity amongst all religions and was a proponent of mutual love, respect, and harmony. To Muslims, he encouraged them to perform namaz and go deep into the inner silence to experience direct communion with Allah. So we can try to define God, but there really is no one way to define God because God is limitless. In his true essence, he's far beyond human understanding. He's beyond space, he's beyond time, And although I keep calling him he, he's beyond gender. God is eternal truth. And in all major religions, God is defined as being present everywhere, as being all knowing, as being all powerful. In yogic terms, God is Supreme Spirit, infinite consciousness, eternal truth. And as human beings, eternal truth and infinite consciousness are terms that are not necessarily very easy to relate to. And for some, the concept of God is somewhat easier to relate to when it's expressed in terms that our human consciousness can grasp, such as infinite power or infinite love or infinite peace and so on. And yet, the infinity aspect of God to the human mind is also quite challenging. It seems so vast, so far, and so distant. And so, in order to commune with the vast, infinite, formless force, people have approached God as something more relatable, something nearer to our level of consciousness, such as Heavenly Father, or as Lord, or Master, as the beneficent, the merciful, the compassionate, or as Divine Mother, the Comforter, as Friend, Beloved God, or simply as Infinite Spirit. In Islam alone, there are 99 names of God or attributes of God to help us more easily understand and relate to Him. According to the yogis, there are 8 main attributes to God, and those are love and bliss, sound and light, wisdom and power, peace and calmness. So when we quietly sit in meditation, Yogananda said to consciously tune into one of those aspects. And in this way, we can begin to experience these more tangible aspects of God. Paramhansa Yogananda said that it would be a mistake to think that God has a human form because God is infinitely more. He explained that to conceive of certain aspects of God in order to connect to and feel closer to Him is okay. And in this way, to think of God in a particular essence or form is okay. You see, representations like paintings and statues in themselves are harmless. Creating a symbol or a likeness doesn't in itself denigrate or belittle God, especially if the intention is to draw God closer to us. But nevertheless, as Yogananda said, formlessness is the higher reality. And like he said, it would be a mistake to think that God has a human form. Yogananda himself often addressed his public prayers as Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, Beloved God. And you may have heard Sufis also address God as friend and beloved. Yogananda explained that we can approach Him in all of these ways as Mother, Father, Friend, Beloved, God, if it moves our heart. Or we can simply approach Him as formless, eternal Spirit, if that moves our heart. The key here, you see, is the heart. When the heart is activated, when we call upon infinite consciousness, infinite spirit with the devotion of the heart, when we address God in a way that moves and opens the heart, and when we're then able to lift that heart energy up to the brain, up to the spiritual eye, now that's the key that opens the portal to superconsciousness. Divine Mother was Yogananda's favorite way of addressing God because that's what unlocked his heart. What's encouraging is that modern science is now beginning to understand this vital partnership between heart and brain and how heart-brain coherence affects our states of consciousness and allows us to go into an expanded state of awareness.